Hi, I'm Jeff. It's happy to visit Physio Strength. This is Dr. Clinton, and we have Ryan here from Taiwan.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm from Taiwan, and a master student. And I just visit Why it's a good chance to meet Jeff and Clinton.
And my name is Clinton. I'm a physical therapist here in New York. I'm just happy to meet with Jeff and Ryan and discuss physical weightlifting related physical therapy matters and anything related to strength and conditioning too, so that we can talk about our approaches and our philosophies and strategies we use. So
How to start with powerlifting? We should say that, not weightlifting, right?
I've been powerlifting for maybe 3 or 4 years or so. I used to be a dragon boater. My wife still dragon boats, so.
I saw you do a lot of different sports. Right?
Yeah. I'm not like excellent in anyone, but like dragon boating was something that we really loved. But around 2014 or 15, I would say, I was just looking at different ways to see how I could get stronger on the dragon boat. And then naturally I just found the barbell, and I just wanted to see how strong I could get doing things like the squat and not so much the bench press at the time, but really just like squatting and deadlifting for transfer into dragon boat performance. And then I stopped dragon boating around like maybe 2015 or so, but I still love strength training. You know, being a physical therapist, I think it's important that we stay active, and I just wanted to keep working on like my barbell skills and things like that.
Yeah. Also, you start powerlifting because of you want to improve the results of dragon boat.
Right. Like we had some other fitness measures that we were working on as well, but the ones that I just kind of drew more to was like squatting and deadlifting. And when I left dragon boating, I wanted to be competitive in something, or I wanted to pursue something with a little bit more like seriousness. And naturally, I think like powerlifting was a fun way to do it. The thing I love about powerlifting too is like you're in competition with yourself, really. Like at least when you're starting out, like you don't have to necessarily compare yourself to another person. You're just trying to get better every day, right? Like if I'm doing the best I can and I'm progressively seeing improvements, like I think that's just a really rewarding way to, just to stick with the sport, and I really love that aspect of it, like being in competition with myself and just trying to get better and seeing improvements, and it was great.
I see. How about you? How do you start with powerlifting? He's doing like power clean, like snatch, all that thing. So that's why he got picked to the weightlifting team.
At the first time, because I joined the basketball team of my department. Also.
We are in the same basketball team.
Cool.
University. So.
Nice.
I think the purpose is the same. I want to improve my skill, improve the strength and grounding speed in the basketball. And I want to be strong more. So the first time is I think it's the powerlifting, squatting, deadlifting, and also upper body workout. And then when I just graduate from the college, I have a chance to meet the weightlifting, because my master thesis is to get the research of the weightlifting's injury. So I just want to try why weightlifters got injured in their shoulder or low back. So I tried weightlifting with my friend who is a weightlifting coach. So that's why I tried maybe 2 years of weightlifting. It's really hard.
Since like like undergrad, I would say, like college, and then through PT school, and then like as I fell into dragon boating, like you get more and more kind of see what you can do in the gym and to get stronger for that. So so I was always like generally strength training, but
just like push and pull, vertical or the?
Yeah, like everything. A lot of rowing, a lot of rotational like core work. Around 2013, 2014, I also got a lot into kettlebells. So I was a strong first kettlebell coach for like 4 years or so.
Oh.
So a lot of like cleans, swings, like pressing, carries. Yeah, right. Because I love that ballistic aspect of that strength training. It really helps solidify like I guess my hinging patterns, doing that under like heavy weight repetitions. So I actually fell into kettlebells I guess prior to barbell, but I found that they kind of like supplemented each other.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and again like they carried over into like sports like dragon boat as well. So.
Cool. I'm just curious, like with dragon boat, traditionally they do more with upper body, right?
Yeah.
But how do you find out you have to do like deadlift, like squats to make you stronger?
Yeah, that's a great question because when we think of the dragon boat motion, right? Like you're planting your paddle into the water, and you're certainly pulling and pushing with your trunk like this. But I don't think people understand that like you have your foot against this platform on the floor, and the only way you're actually able to drive your arms and your shoulders is the ability of your leg to push into that platform, right? So like this is essentially like a deadlift in like a broken down form, right? Like I'm driving my leg into a platform so that I can transfer energy into my upper body and eventually into this paddle so I can propel the boat forward. Right. So like if you get strong in a deadlift, right, and you're strengthening the muscles that are involved with the lower body portion of a dragon boat stroke, like you're gonna have that's like at least 50% of the stroke, right? Like if we're thinking about it just in terms of like body region. So I think, I actually think every dragon boater should be deadlifting it to some extent, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with the barbell, but it's some sort of exercise in which you're driving through your leg and pushing so that you can generate tension. It's like that's essentially like a dragon boat stroke. So.
True.
So the kettlebell swing is a good exercise.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like exactly.
The tempo, the velocity, just like the boat.
Especially because like if you think of a dragon boat as you drag a boat in races of like 200 meters or 500 meters, like a race can last anywhere between like 1 minute to like 2 minutes or what have you. It's hard to do like a 2 minute long set with like a barbell, just like deadlift for 2 minutes. But I like a kettlebell where like the weight is relatively lighter, but you're going for speed, you're going for long durations, you're going for high repetitions. There's a cardiovascular component to it. There's a technique aspect to it, right? So those domains alone transfer so well into dragon boat.
It's more like endurance work.
Yeah, right. You need endurance. You need absolute strength if you're working with like the heavier kettlebells too. But everything kind of like kind of molds together really nicely.
How do you combine the experience of powerlifting and physiotherapy?
Yeah. So it's a good question. I feel like it's important for physical therapists to understand like the lifestyle and demands of the patient population that they're treating. Like when someone is injured and maybe they get some sort of like diagnosis from a physician, and there's concern about like how much that person can do so that they don't make the injury worse, right? And I think that's what makes our profession great and allows us to really address that population, because we have the medical background of all the things that will potentially make this better or worse, but at the same time we know the nuances of barbell training and the specific lifts that our patients are doing, so that we can say like, okay, so to what extent will a powerlifting movement hurt me? And in what capacity can I still train where I can make improvements in my performance but not aggravate my injury? And I think that's really the zone where physical therapists can thrive, right? It's figuring out the details of what we can do safely, what we can't do, that we can respect the medical aspect of it and follow physician's orders, but at the same time not be so scared of moving that we lose all the benefits from training whatsoever. So I think being a power lifter and also treating like people that have similar interests is like, it really goes hand in hand.
I see. But how do you decide like, okay, yeah, it's time you can keep going like weightlifting, or you should stop to do the treatment like manual work?
Yeah. So it depends on what the patient can do, what goals they have, their pain levels, how they respond to pain. You know, because I think something for me that's like a 6 out of 10 pain, like might be like a 3 out of 10 pain for Jeff, or like a 2 for Ryan or something like that, right? So I think knowing as precisely as we can people's responses to things that are painful is gonna, you know, factor into the decision-making process. If we think about their goals, right? Like we were talking about how if someone is in a timeline for competition and they know they have to compete at this time, we have the advantage of all this amount of time beforehand where I can work on things that aren't painful, that aren't very urgent, right? I think a lot of times people maybe are too keen to work on things that are important, but it's not so urgent in the timeline. So we can use that to our advantage, right? Like why don't we rehab things that are safe to do, that still contribute to our performance and don't exacerbate the symptoms, you know? So I think being strategic about how they feel towards different aspects of training is a great way to navigate that territory. Occasionally you're going to inevitably experience some things that the patient can't do whatsoever, and I think that's the time where it's like, okay, we have to be realistic about this. If you do barbell work right now, it's going to make this worse so that it'll become a chronic nagging injury and it'll potentially get worse, right? So I think it's good to communicate that we need to back off for now, make whatever issue, if it's the shoulder, for example, we need to make that like less painful and more like load tolerant, and then we'll gradually progress back into things. So finding exactly what range of loading and the dosage of strength training will now allow someone to kind of move away from pain and more towards their goals.
What's the most common injury you see with people who love weightlifting or powerlifting?
It's got to be low back pain. Just because I think like everyone sits a lot for work, you know, and just being in a position where you can't move that much, and then doing that for up to like, you know, depending on your profession, whatever, we'll say like 7 or 8 hours a day of sitting, right? That's a lot of sitting, of not a lot of motion going to the lumbar spine. So I think that potentially affects a lot of weightlifters. You guys don't need me to tell you, like even if you're not weightlifting, if people that sit for long periods of time, like I think that tends to be an aggravating factor for a lot of people. So if you add that into the fact of people that are trying to like, you know, have these high training frequencies and schedules and things like that, I think that's what makes low back pain kind of a more pervasive problem.
I see. How about Ryan? Ryan is with the Taiwanese Olympic team to Uzbekistan?
Uzbekistan.
So yeah, what's the common injury with the athlete?
I agree to the Clinton is about the low back, but I think the other issue is about the shoulder, because weightlifter, they have to push the shoulder to the overhead position, but I think the weightlifter only, the power lifter have to do the bench press, not always do the overhead press, right? So weightlifting, they have to put in the overhead position, so the shoulder is the biggest problem, I think, and the second one is the low back. So we usually not to push our arm overhead all the day, but weightlifting they have to do to push the bar overhead, and it's really heavy and high speed, high velocity, and it's got injury all the time.
That's one of the tricky things about weightlifting versus powerlifting, right? Like I would say in general, powerlifting there's less movement variability, right? Like you're squatting, you're benching, and you're deadlifting, and things are tight. You're trying to have as much tension as you can, right? And you're moving in like one single plane. Velocity is not as much of a factor as it might be for weightlifting, where you need to accelerate, and like there's so many different things going on at the same time. So.
What's the most common cause of the lower back pain?
I think the official answer is I think that's why, to get away from like foam rolling and stretching and hot packs and electrostimulation and trigger point gun. Like, I think all those things have their purpose in the right place, in the right time for certain people. But I think if I had to rank movement and strength and building capacity like on the hierarchy of importance, like I think that has to be up there. So everybody that comes to these doors, like they're getting some sort of like movement or strengthening intervention. So that's where it came with me, physio strength.